So, welcome to today's coaching clinic, a resurrection in your career, in your love life, in any area that you are feeling is a bit blah or a bit low or a bit dead. And I've been inspired by sharing this subject with you after spending a week with Hollywood movie stars, producers, directors, fashion designers, models, actresses. I was suddenly ushered into a world without leaving my doorstep that I didn't even know was occurring. I'd met the organizer of the Allura Film Fest a while back, but I had no idea that she had created such a whirlwind of events and masterclasses and opportunities, and then to find myself amongst it all was the icing on the cake. And so as I went throughout the week, one thing kept coming up from each of these creative talents who were at the top of their game. And that was just how normal it is to need a resurrection in your career, to want it, just how natural it is and how necessary it is in order to move to the next level. And I want to share this from the space of grace rather than the space of Hollywood, because one of the things I did hear over and over again was just how competitive and cutthroat their world is. And some of them seemed quite led by the competition, and some of them seemed very led by inspiration, inspired from within. And I would like to focus a little more on that direction, because to me, that is fuel that keeps you going for the long run. Competition can keep you going for the short run. And it looks to me like when we're using that sort of fuel to get ahead, at some point we start feeling bad, and we don't live in a nice feeling anymore. There can be positive competition, but if you're not living in a nice feeling about what you're creating in the world, you're not going to stay there, especially not this group of people who are interested in feeling good and deepening their consciousness and helping others in the world. So today's topic is really here to help you look in the direction of your own resurrection. And that could be in any area. I'm suggesting a focus on career, since that's the area that we all are so keenly interested in. And it's an area that I've been through myself over and over again. And most recently just had quite a huge resurrection in my own business after being out of my business after the death of Francesco. So I want to talk a little bit about how a resurrection comes about, why inspiration is your best fuel. And I want to share a little bit more about just, what the wisdom I've gained listening to some of these incredibly creative beings who descended upon our little Astuni this last week, and how life took me by surprise, giving me invitations to things that I wasn't even sure I had the wardrobe for. So let's start just very gently, like we normally do, with a grounding visualization. And after that, I'll go into sharing a little bit, and then I want to open it up to you and make this relevant for you, okay? So join with me as we close our eyes, and be sure your lines are muted. And I want you to just feel your body on that chair, on that sofa, on that bed. I want you to just feel, without judgment, the weight of your body and how your body is supporting you there. Just notice that physical part of yourself there, sitting, listening. And I want you to consider something, and that is, who is doing the listening as I share these words? Often we think that little us is doing it all. But as you go through this guided vision, I want you just to carry with you this possibility that who is doing the listening? Who is looking through your eyes onto the screen? There's always this deeper aspect of each of us in charge, leading the way. And just with your feet now firmly planted on the ground, I want you to see roots, imagine roots coming from your feet down through the ground, down into the underground, and right down to a rock at the bottom of the earth, and wrap roots in that rock. This rock is grounding and nurturing. And see golden light coming from that rock up through the earth and up into the underground, and right up into the ground and up through the floorboards and in through your feet. This golden light brings vitality, energy, wisdom, cleansing with it up through the ankles, through the lower legs, the front of the legs, the shins, the kneecaps. See this light circling all the way up through the body, through the thighs, into the hip bones, on up through the back of the legs, through the buttocks, and on up into the back. See it moving up through your spine now, this gorgeous healing light through your spine, all the way up. Right up to the top of the head, and out through the hair, and down through the face, the neck, out through the shoulders, out through the arms, the lower arms, the hands, the fingertips, the nails. So you're completely encircled by this healing light. This light of your true nature. This light of your divine love. Now in front of you, I want you to see a beautiful golden path. And just step up onto the path and begin to walk along it. And carry in your heart now where you want a resurrection. What area are you intending to have it in, yearning for it or in, without judgment, without analyzing? Carry it along the path with you now. As you reach the top of the path, you notice a body of water. And you're just going to go towards that water. And as you reach the water, there's a backpack you're noticing that you're carrying. And in that backpack, I want you to take it off your shoulders. Begin to open it up and empty out of the backpack all the things that are just weighing you down, that are just keeping you, quote unquote, crucified rather than resurrected. So begin to empty the contents out now and gently pour the contents one at a time into water. You're letting go of the things that are keeping you stuck and spinning, going around in circles, paralyzed. Just let water absorb these things. And as you put the last of it all into the body of water, just feel how light you've become. Notice that you stand a little straighter. Notice a sense of hopefulness in your heart about your future. And now that you're freed up a little bit, go towards the bench on the other side of the water and have a seat there for a moment. This is a very special place. It's a place where you can call in a guide, a spiritual being, someone you're close to, someone you believe in, or simply your own wisdom. And as you sit on the bench, contemplate the question and wait for an answer or a vision or a clarity or a feeling. Contemplate, what can I do to initiate a resurrection in this particular area? Don't force anything. And thank your guide, your spiritual being, your higher wisdom. If you haven't received a clarity, ask for and intend that you'll receive it during your sleeping state or waking state in the morning. Often we know what it is that we could do to initiate some sort of forward movement. And it's not always about stopping something or starting something. It can often be something just so simple, so common sense. So let yourself move from the bench now back onto the path, away from the body of water. Gentle spring in your step, knowing that your own desire for change, for resurrection, for calling in something fresh, is the springboard, is the movement forward. Without that desire, remember, desidere, the Latin word, meaning comes from the Father. Without that desire that comes from the Father above, without that, things tend to stay as they are. And we can live in a beautiful place of contentment. Nothing wrong with that. But if you do feel a desire in your heart, stirring, emerging, trust it. Walk along the path. back, right back into your body, in the chair, on the sofa, wherever you are, on the bed. Feel roots coming from your feet down through the ground, into the underground, and right down to a rock at the bottom of the earth. And wrap those roots around that rock. Let yourself be there. Let yourself relax. If there's anything you want to write down, do so now. You're welcome to come back on the camera as we get started here. So when we think about resurrecting our career or any other area, we do want to tune into the timing of that, because we might want it desperately and life might be asking us to wait or hold on or get ready. I know for months I was wanting to be back in my business. I had taken a little bit of a break, and whilst I was still working with some one-to-one clients, I really wanted to bring together a group. And I just didn't know what the group was going to be about and what it was going to be called and what I would do. But the yearning was there. The desire for a resurrection was there. And to me, the resurrection was going to be significant if it was a whole new group, and if it was significant in terms of numbers, and if it was significant in terms of content. And for a number of months, I just didn't know what it was. So I just sat with the yearning. I'd like to do a group. I'd like to be back in my business more. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. And I just got on with life. At some point, I was paying for some guidance. And it occurred to me, what stage are you in, Grace? And I thought, I'm in a whole new chapter. And a few hours later, a friend of mine sent me a message with a guided meditation, and the meditation was called Your Next Chapter or something like that. And I knew life was speaking to me. So I'd heard it from my own wisdom, and then I saw it from the external world. And that became my first group program since 2019, I would say. And we launched that just over 6 weeks ago or so. And so I brought people through their new chapter. I share that little example with you because notice in my journey, there was a period of waiting, getting ready to be ready, not having clarity, wondering what it was about. And then receiving the guidance about what it was about and having life validated with some external evidence. That group program emerged. We had 20 participants in it. We had a wonderful month of doing it. Some of you that are here were in it. And from there, there's been a ripple effect, not always in the way that my mind had made up would happen next, but there's been a ripple effect into the business. In other words, a resurrection has occurred. And it was done in such a gentle, easy way that I think I ended up promoting the group with one short video and a few instant messenger messages, and then my emails, just talking about your new chapter. And life keeps sending people now who are looking for a new chapter, looking for a resurrection. And how interesting to me that from all of the master classes I attended in the last week for the film festival, that the poignant message coming out from these world-class creative talents has been that it's normal to want to resurrect and start something fresh. It's part of the business, part of the game, it's part of the growth, it's part of why we're here and how we're here. So if you're in that space now where you're feeling about, you want something fresh, you want something new, but you don't know what it is yet, I invite you to be a little patient. I know you probably don't want to be. I invite you to see what life shows you as you get into connection with divine mind's guidance for you. I invite you to be inspired that we all go through this as business owners, and even movie stars are going through it. And what comes out the other side of that, let's say, death that you might be in, or that desert you might be in, what comes out the other side will be very gratifying to you, but you must trust the divine timing rather than force your way through. So like, we went to a masterclass with Matt Dillon, I was sharing with some of you, and he said that his new movie, City of Ghosts, that has been filmed in Cambodia, was born from the fact that he was so disappointed in not getting a part in a movie. And he said he didn't even really want the part, but he couldn't understand why he was so disappointed he didn't get the part. And when he really thought about it, he realized that he wanted something fresh and new. He wanted to be in his career again. He wanted to be out there doing it. He did not want to be sitting at home thinking about it. And ultimately what came to him was, okay, they're not going to give me that part. Well, I'm going to go and do something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and that is to produce an act in my own movie. And that's where his movie has been born from. Now, I don't know how the movie is. I'm not interested. I'm interested in the fact that, here is another human being who you and I might say, well, gosh, he should be happy with where he is by now, and he's had a lot of success and he's famous and all the rest. Here's another human being who needs to express his purpose like we all do. And that is with a reinvention, a resurrection. Similarly, I sat down, I was very blessed to be invited to a lunch with two-time Oscar-winning producer Bobby Moret, or Baby and Crash, amongst lots of other movies. I mean, honestly, I didn't actually know who he was. But when I found out who he was, of course, I was like, oh my God, I've got to be at that lunch because I want to ask him some questions. And we had a lovely lunch, him and his wife, Barbara. They absolutely loved us, Dooney. And he was so passionate about his work. I mean, that's all he was really talking about. And I said to him, what's your story? How did you get started? And he said, well, Grace, I come from Hell's Kitchen, New York, and I went to the worst school in the city. And I wanted to be an actor. And my teacher told me that I would leave school and do something that had nothing to do with education. And he was right, because I never finished school. And I tried to make it as an actor for 10 years, he said. And I just got fed up with the struggle. No doors were opening. It was so hard. I had 2 kids to support. So I just took myself off and did construction. And when I did construction, I began to write. And that writing became a screenplay. And that screenplay got produced. And that ended up in the right hands at the right time. And that screenplay launched me into the Hollywood writing set. And that was my reinvention. I went from actor to screenwriter, and I've never looked back. And again, I was hearing the same message. Here's someone directing his career. You know, the doors weren't opening in one area, and he went into another area, and he had the common sense, the desire, the wisdom to begin writing. You know, it's not like he went from being an actor and totally just gave up and threw the baby out with the bathwater. He just was like, had this yearning to write something else rather than try and act. And he said the doors began to open. You know, that sense of alignment we get when we are moving on to the right path. I'm not saying it's always easy, but there is a sense of one door closes, another door opens. So we never need to be afraid if we give up on something or if doors don't open in a particular area, because clearly his purpose was not to be on the sidelines as an actor. Clearly his expression of his creative talent was to be the screenwriter and the producer. I'm not sure he would have won 2 Oscars for acting, but he won 2 Oscars for screenwriting and producing. So these people are not idols, by the way. These are just ordinary people following their wisdom, having common sense, yearning a change and a resurrection. And rather than getting discouraged, and part of what we talk about here in the coaching clinic is becoming discouragement proof. Part of understanding how the mind works helps you become discouragement proof. So instead of them getting discouraged, they waited, and they might have gone in another direction, and then they emerged with something even more fulfilling. I hope that's as inspiring to you as it is to me, because there's something comforting about knowing that it is the human experience to fall into the desert and death, and from that place, with good patience and without getting insecure, from that place, emerging, resurrecting, reinventing, and coming into a new chapter in your experience. At this point, anything you want to ask me, anything you're curious about, anything you're struggling with that you want my support around, let me know. And you're welcome to type it in the box if you don't want to come on the screen. Kelly, are you on?
Kelly? Yeah, I'm here.
Did you want to ask a question?
I think Michaela has her hand up. Oh, she's okay. It's a fake hand. I don't know. Maybe a comment. I don't know, when you started this session, the term resurrection is interesting. It's kind of mostly used in a religious context. But it made me think of Phoenix from the ashes type of thing too, that there is a renewal. And I know that this would be a while ago, and I'm just curious about how it does relate to career. But like you, I've been through a couple of metamorphoses, and I got through all of them, but I think they made me a little scared for the next one, even though the next one's imminent. So I thought that was interesting, your comment, right? If you can just not get to, I forget how you worded it, when it happens, not get to something, you said something there, and just hang in there. You said, I just wanted to clarify
Not
what
to
it was.
not to get impatient and to be discouragement proof.
Yeah, I think that's the reminder, is that you always do float back up. That's the funny thing. And I just think the thing is, I've been wanting to just really enjoy the process. So I think one of the things I'm taking away from what you're saying is to normalize that it is part of the process. You're always in the process. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's part of the game of life. Whether it's in our career or somewhere else, we're going to yearn for that. And you yourself, Kelly, have been through a little bit of a resurrection, or quite a not a metamorphosis as such, but yeah, you've come into a lovely creative experience. So you're in it.
Yeah, and I think what I'm experiencing with your support and guidance in these little sessions is the story afterwards looks like so big, like from the before to the after. But when you hear a story about a guy who went to construction and started writing every night, that wasn't an automatic like future state, right? And it was a lot of little things along the way. And so I keep learning is the art of being in awe and presence and respect to the signals that connect with the desire, and not the desire like from a painful place, but the desire from like a expectant place. Mm-hmm. Like this morning, literally just before our call, I've been trying to help somebody else secure a coach. And I talked to this lady and I got this like full body, like excitement. I'm like, whoa, what is that? And it was like, I felt it. I was like, oh, here comes the signal. The space she's coaching in, where she's working in, caused this like full body, like lights on. And I'm like, oh, that's super interesting. What was that? I don't know exactly. So then I came into this call going, that's pretty interesting. So some of this other things has been little degree, but it's getting more and more steady. And so what comes at you is coming a little more things are coming, kind of.
Yes. There's a momentum that gets built as we follow our wisdom. Okay. There is a momentum that gets built. And it's not just following our wisdom, it's moving. Our wisdom is proactive. It's moving into a place of action, you know. As we do that, we do find momentum. We do experience that level of movement. You know, we have that going for us. And I'm sure it wasn't easy for this movie producer to just come home from construction and sit down and write every night, but it was in him to do that. You know, when I said to him, yeah, I don't seem to write every day. And I mean, I get downloads for posts to write and then I don't. And I'm not sure, like, how do I find the story that I'm actually writing? And he literally was just like, you just keep writing, Grace. Even the bad stuff, write the bad stuff until the good stuff comes, you know. That was just such common sense. It's such common sense. Of course you would. You know, I'm sitting around going, well, I'm waiting for the download. When really the momentum is going to come from being in the action of writing. So I have a little bit of discipline or restructuring to do in my everyday world, whereby there's a priority begins to take place around the writing, you know, rather than just waiting on the download. So that's where our momentum comes from. that's how we emerge into a new chapter and a new world and a new experience. And that's hopeful. Michaela, great to see you here, sweetheart. Would you like to share?
Sure. Thank you. Nice to be here. Again, I don't often get a chance to come in at this time. I love this subject, and I just wrote down the word discipline, because I've been hearing that a lot lately. And I kind of, I like to have like a guideline or a guardrail or something to keep me on track, but I also resist the structure. And so I can see sort of looking at it differently, because I have experienced before that when I have a little bit of structure and I commit to that, and I've only done it in bits and pieces, that there is a lot more freedom that I get from that discipline, and more, I guess, forward movement. So that was interesting. That came up just then. And the idea of being patient, yeah, I see that. And it makes sense. And yeah, it is really challenging to be patient sometimes. And I think maybe most challenging because looking out there for the ways to do things, that this is how you do it to get ABC. And yeah, I'm in the midst of sort of discerning some things around marketing and having a community that feels good, that I'm curating, bringing together, inviting in together through an email list. This is like brand new, like this week. So it's, yeah, I'm just seeing, sometimes I wonder, it's, it feels like something to see, how does this work? This whole having an email list and like, it's like, does it really? I almost feel curious about the process of inviting people into my world and having a space where to share and to help people move through things in their life. So I came in a very different space. I'm seeing that it's not as I was making it out to be a really big deal, that a really big challenge, or really difficult. And I want it to be really natural and to feel good and not, yeah, I don't know, but that wasn't where I was going when I first came in. So I don't know what's coming of that.
That's beautiful. Sometimes it's just about sharing, because you're voicing what needs to come out, you know? It was interesting because as you spoke about the thing about, you know, the marketing and is this the thing to do and all of that. The other thing that struck me this week was with some of the screenplay writers who give master classes, and they spoke about people coming to film school versus people who were not in film school. And it reminded me a bit like of people coming out of business academies who have learned all the nuts and bolts, and people who haven't. And they were saying, you know, the people who have come out of the film schools are so caught up in their head about I need to do this, and I have to have this on page 10, and I need to do that, and it has to look like this. versus they've basically got a head full of structure that doesn't serve them, versus the people who haven't done any of that and both stuff and just come with a fantastic piece of writing and can turn it into something. So I think it's a universal struggle where our mind, when we have this idea that there's a right way to do it, there's a formulaic way I have to go about it, it's a universal thing that people start to get a head full of stuff, and that narrows the bandwidth on just showing up with a creative spark. Mm-hmm. So I'd really invite you and all of us, just let life show you what to share. Like, I had no idea that what was going to happen this past week. And now I have lots of content to share that I would never have had to share if life hadn't shown it to me. Now, I'm not saying that you need life to present you with something so full on, but you might be surprised at what life shows you as a means to sharing with your email list, with your clients, with your people, versus what are the nuts and bolts of how I'm supposed to be doing this in order to, quote unquote, get clients. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I came from the business marketing schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Schools. Yeah.
I come from both. I come from both schools. And I can tell you that the nuts and bolts that you learn are helpful, but without content that comes from your heart, your life, your experience, it's just generic. Humans, there was a beautiful quote this week from an incredible actress. She said, humans love story. No, hang on, bear with me. I'm going to get it because I wrote it down. You can tell I've been a good student. She said, story expands our understanding of humanity. That's beautiful, isn't it? Storytelling expands our understanding of humanity. Connie, you agreeing with that?
No, I couldn't hear you. You broke up and I never heard what you said. Oh, so I was trying to say, please repeat it. And you did. So you could repeat it one more time.
Storytelling expands our understanding of humanity. Marketing, good marketing is storytelling. Bad marketing is taking a story and turning it into a generic formula, hoping that people will buy something. So if storytelling expands our understanding of humanity, isn't it wonderful that part of our job as teachers and healers and coaches is to show up and share our story, rather than having to make it more complicated than that. I should get her name, but I know I'm gonna. I can't remember. Some very famous actress, Oscar winner. I think it was Alfred, somebody or other. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that it inspires you all to be more in service to humanity by showing up with your stories rather than trying to figure out the nuts and bolts of your marketing strategies. Connie, you want to come on? Yes.
Well, I have to thank you, Michaela. That was just, you were just speaking you were just speaking from my heart as well. But I'm going to be very vulnerable right now. And I want to read to you all what I wrote last night as a free writing exercise, because my snow globe was just flying. I mean, I just wasn't able to get everything settled. So I thought, I'm just going to get this out. So, and this is why I read it just happened to, oh yeah, right. It just happened to come into an app that I have called Readwise. I don't even read this book, but it came in with this quote saying, based on the things that you do read and highlight, we think you would like this book. So it went on to say, and I wrote this down, people who eternally substitute thinking for action are called chronic contemplators. Oh my God, there was my diagnosis right there. Chronic contemplators. Instead of going, yeah, so I have a chronic abnormality and it's contemplating. So, but then instead of saying that and accepting it, I went the other way. Like, yeah, where's the action? When is the contemplating going to stop? When is the right message, the right this, the right that? And so this is what I wanted to read to you. I just started, I got to get my glasses on. This is the vulnerability. Why can't I decide on what to do? Why do I hesitate? Who am I trying to please anyway? Why does it matter? Who cares? Sit and watch TV all day if you want to. You haven't seen some good movies. Why not? Why does it matter what I do every day? Does God even care? What makes me happy, fulfilled, and alive? What am I doing? Okay, so I wrote that. And I basically went to bed on that. It felt good to just, this is the beautiful part. This morning when I woke up at 5:30, this is the first thing I visualized. That was the me speaking. That was the me, not the essence of I, not, and those are two different things. That was me living in this new chapter of my life where I don't quite know what to do with myself. That was me going, being driven and pulled by the beliefs of what it's like to be successful, the belief about how I should be ending my life. I've turned 70, I've turned that corner. I'm like, oh my gosh, I see the little light at the end of the tunnel and I'm beginning to go, oh my, oh my. Okay, all that is me. All that's ego. All that is what I've learned in my past. So this morning I woke up and went, but that's not my essence. That's not I. And I think you took us there when we sat on the bench and took the backpack off and took out past beliefs, took out what the shoulds, took out pleasing, took out, well, I really better do this. It's getting late. Life is going by. Time's a ticking. Sand's going through the hourglass. Panic. And then my eye is sitting there going, oh my, you're missing the point. So I took a very long 2.5 hour walk. And this, what you're doing today is like, oh my gosh, this is the synchronicity that's beginning to happen, is that I need to just rest in I and not me. And you're such a beautiful conduit to reminding those that know you and work with you and hear you, and that when we're struggling, we're in the me. When we're just gliding, we're in the I, the essence of who we are. And I just want to thank you for that. And I'm just so happy to be here.
Oh, that was beautiful, Connie. So from your wisdom, I mean, just as an example for everybody, can you feel the difference between somebody speaking from their story versus somebody speaking from generic formula? Like Connie's just exemplified that. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for, being vulnerable is what we make up. You've just helped so many people by sharing that, not just people on this call. You've just helped so many people by sharing what you shared. It's absolutely beautiful. And good for you to notice life's synchronicities, because often our mind.
Blind. When we're in me, we're blind to them. They could come up and slap us or kiss us on the face and we wouldn't know it.
Exactly. Our mind can get so busy and so wound up that we don't see the synchronicity. And here you are today, in the right place at the right time, having had the right download for what came through. Thank you, Connie. Honestly, so beautiful, so beautiful. And you're a teacher at heart. You've got a lot to. I hope you mind me saying that to people. You've got a lot to share with this world. It's not about time, or the ticking time. I think we can all relate to that. The ticking time thing. Bob the drunk guy in our head will often scare us that we're running out of time, that we don't have enough time, that we're never going to get there on time. Let him do his screaming, but certainly don't go to him for advice on your life's mission. Fabulous. Anybody else want to come on, share, ask a question? We've got a few minutes left before we need to close. Anybody else?
Grace, I don't know if you would answer to this, but Beverly had said, how did they keep going after deciding to go in a direction? I'm kind of curious.
How did who keep going?
I think she had posted this just after you expressed about like the gentleman who quit the acting and went into construction and the writing. I'm not sure, Beverly, if that's when you posted the question, but that's where my mind went. And I thought, oh, I'm curious too.
Yeah. So Beverly, if it's not that, let us know. But from what I understood from Matt Dillon, Edward Norton, Iris Pinada, Bobby Moresco, Jeremy Irons, from all of them, the thing that kept them going when they went in that other direction, or that in search of that resurrection, was exactly what Connie's just described. It was the I, not the little me that tries to force everything into existence, but that part that is bigger than us. There's no way you can come home from a job in construction and sit down and write unless something is writing through you. Writers talk about this all the time. In fact, Bobby Moresco's wife, Barbara, has written a book. It just hasn't been published. And she said, I just couldn't stop writing. I just couldn't stop. We're back to this divine mind that operates within us and around us. And as we tune into that, we are moved to get things done. People always say to me, well, how did you get your coaching business going if you were a school teacher? But how did you do this? And how did you end up doing that? I don't know. I just couldn't stop. I was on a forward movement that was bigger than me. And I look forward to that happening with the book I'm producing, that I'll be into a forward movement that is the I taking over, so, humans are all the same in this respect. Nobody's got more discipline, got more ideas. They just are listening to something that's within them that's driving the needle forward. And that can be done gracefully and gently and prolifically, or it can be done with a gun to your head and a competitive force and a bad feeling. I think we all choose the former. So I hope that answers the question, Beverly. Essentially, what I picked up from each of them in each of their different master classes and conversations was that, you know, that level of momentum keeps you going because it's not really coming from you. Okay. Back to divine mind. We want to be relying so much more on our true essence than Bob, the drunk guy in our head. We want to be relying on that, trusting that, and letting it move us forward. So when we look back on our life, it's not, oh, I regret I didn't do this and I wish I'd done it this way and I should have done it that way. Rather, it is, wow, look how I was moved. Look how life lived me. Look how I was being lived in every moment. Look how I brought that into existence. Just as a mother doesn't have control over when she's about to give birth, you don't have control over what's going to be born through you, because of you, and inside of you. You just want to let yourself be curious. I love Michaela saying that. Let yourself be curious about the possibility of something fresh and new that's stirring in you. If you would like my help with that, I have a couple of different ways that we can help you get a resurrection in your career, your business, your love life, whatever area you're looking at. Whether it's one-to-one coaching, I have a few limited spaces left. You can get in touch. A retreat in Italy, if that speaks to you, or if you'd like to join our new program, Your New Chapter, we'll have a new round of that happening in July, and I'll release the date for you soon. Get in touch, gracefulcoaching@gmail.com, or send me a private message, because we're all friends at this stage, and I'll respond to you there. I hope this has been helpful and inspiring, and I look forward to being with you. I won't be with you next Tuesday. I'm taking a week on the beach. So I won't be with you next Tuesday, but I'll be with you after that. One sec, I've got, oh, you can all look on the chat if you want. Some people are writing in. Thank you so much. Yeah, Michaela, Connie. Yeah. Great. Yeah, you're all welcome. All right, ladies, take care and have a good week. Ciao.